Jamie with Stonemeyer Games, and as I clicked the go live button, I had an idea, and so I'm going to write that down real quick. Um, I'm just thinking about. I just got a notification for another project. Seems like a lot of projects are launching with multiple games on Kickstarter as part of the core Kickstarter project, and I've kind of touched upon this in the past in terms of focus on a project. I think there was a Steve Finn project that I mentioned a while ago that had multiple games on it, and I wonder if that I hesitantly think I'm hesitant to think that that actually works out um, when you divide that between multiple projects. But the project I just saw was one that had similarly themed games, so maybe that can work. I don't know. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head here. So if you have any thoughts about projects, Kickstarter projects that launch with multiple themes or multiple games included in the project. I know Board Game Tables recently did one, or that has one going right now. And the one that I just saw launched, literally as I clicked the live button, was Final Frontier Games. There's a game called Solani and The Girl Who Made the Stars. And they say this is their Pillars of Creation series, a series of games that feature themes that revolve around myths from around the globe and human history. So they have like a connected theme there, but I guess I'm just wondering if what it says when you have more than one game in the project at the same time. I guess you can consolidate shipping, which is nice, but does it take away the spotlight from both games because you're kind of combining the spotlight for the two of them? I don't know. I'm curious what you think about that. Um, yeah, just a random topic there off the top of my head. So, good morning. I hope you're having a great day. I am really excited today because I am getting the first dose of my vaccination today. Both of us are, Megan and I. And I have never been this excited to get a shot before in my life, but I am super eager to get this first vaccination in and see how it goes. So really excited about that. My chocolate of the day is kind of an odd surprise for me. Hershey's milk chocolate cookie bites. I wasn't sure what to think of them, but they remind me of kind of malted milk balls, but not malty. They have a nice crunch to them, nice substance to them, and I've been munching on them for a while, as you can tell by the open package. But they're pretty good. They also look like malted milk balls, but smaller. So this will be my chocolate of the day. What is your indulgence of the day if you are treating yourself in some way today with a treat? Let's see. I'll scroll through questions real quick to see if there are any first one, a few quick ones. Steiner says that he's setting up his first game of Red Rising. I see some other people saying they're eagerly looking to get their Red Rising. Um, and just a quick shipping update there. I believe in Australia and New Zealand, they have completed all pre-order fulfillment for both champions and non-champions. In the UK and Europe, they are working on non-champions right now. The Canadian shipment is scheduled to arrive at the fulfillment center at the very end of March or early April and then start shipping right away. And the US shipment, for once, is the slowest shipment. It is taking by far the longest of all these shipments. And we are currently looking at a late April delivery to champions, followed by non-champions. So I'm so sorry that that shipment is taking longer than normal. All the information we had when we launched the project, or launched the pre-order, was early April, but it's just been super slow. But I appreciate your patience. I know everyone's a little bit more patient during the pandemic, and I really do appreciate that. Thank you for your patience. If you're in the U.S. or if you are not from Canada, not from Australia, New Zealand, not from Europe, because in that case you are still shipping from the U.S. Idris has a question here. What do I think of solo or cooperative games with victory point conditions instead of win-lose conditions? I mean, if it's the right fit for the game, I'm all for it. I think that can be an interesting way of giving players a sense of progress and a sense of satisfaction, even if maybe they don't get quite up to the point threshold they were hoping for. Like Hanabi. Hanabi has that system where you do score points at the end of the game in Hanabi, and you can there are various tiers based on those points. You can feel really great, you can feel mediocre, and so I think that's one way to do it, an interesting way to do it. So I think it depends on the game. I don't think games always need to have a win-lose condition. There's also games like The Mind. In The Mind, you're kind of just trying to get as far as possible, and you get a sense of satisfaction based on how far you get in the mind. There might be a point system in it. I don't know if I've ever looked at the point system in the mind, but it's not like you don't really win the mind, you don't really lose the mind. You just try to get as far as possible. I could be wrong about that. Maybe there is a true win condition, like if you get through all 12 levels, but I always have a sense of satisfaction when I get through even just like 4 or 5 levels in the mind, because then you have this like small sense of accomplishment through incremental gains. Maxine says, do I have any news about the Wingspan big box prototype? I don't have a second prototype yet, but I will show it to you when I have it. I know Panda is working on that second prototype right now. But I did take all the feedback you gave me, that everyone gave me, and incorporated it into this box. Obviously, there was plenty of contradicting feedback, so not everyone's piece of feedback will be integrated into the second prototype, but we are trying to make our best solution for holding all Wingspan content and accommodating third-party accessories and inserts and all that stuff. There's a lot of different stuff that we're trying to configure for this big box, as well as past expansions and future expansions, all that stuff. So we are working on that right now. I'll show it to you when I have a new prototype to share. Connor says there's been a lot of negativity in the board game world and a lot of focus on that negativity. I find that exhausting. So who, in your view, is a beacon of positivity in this industry? He will nominate Tim Viernig. I don't think I know Tim, but I appreciate you sharing Tim's positivity. I don't know. I'm not sure if this is what you're referring to, Connor, but I thought that Rodney from Watch It Played had an interesting little short video about negativity on Twitter the other day. And I think Rodney is one of truly the most positive people in the industry. So I'm going to mention Rodney here. Even though his video was about negativity, he was basically talking about the idea of when someone posts a new game that they purchased and they're so excited about it, they post it on social media, and someone decides to comment and say in the comments of this person who just got this new game that they spent their hard-earned money on, that are super excited about, and they say, oh, you shouldn't have bought that, or here's a better game, or that game sucks. And Rodney was like, why would you do that? Like, you don't have to always be positive about everything, but that is not the moment to be negative when someone is super excited about something. And I totally agree. I know that's a little bit of a focus on negativity there, but it's coming from a place of positivity through what Rodney was saying there. So I'll mention Rodney there and his positivity. I mentioned a few people that I chatted with recently on podcasts, because all of these people were wonderfully positive and fun to talk to. I talked to Derek at the Solo Board Games, Solo BG, I think it's acronym for board games, Solo BG podcast. Had a great chat with Derek the other day. I also had a chat with Mitchell at Your Tech Report, which is the Sirius radio channel show that doesn't normally talk about board games, but Mitchell is a big board game fan, and so we had a wonderful, very positive chat about the world of board games, the intersection between board games and technology. And I also had a great chat with, I believe it was Lloyd over at Definitely a Board Game Podcast. And we had a wonderful chat the other day, and that one went live, I think, just yesterday. So a bunch of great discussions, very positive discussions with those people about somewhat about some of our games, but also about games in general. Rich says, what is my vote for my favorite game released in 2020? He said, I recently saw your post about Lost Ruins of Arnak, and that was up there for me. Rich, if you check out my YouTube channel, you can find my top 10 games of 2020. I actually divided it into two lists, one list of like sequels and one list of new games, because there were a lot of sequels. Seems like a lot more sequels coming out. Not that that's a bad thing, but I wanted to give due credit to original concepts. And my favorite original concept from 2020 was Dune Imperium. I really, really love Dune Imperium. Still love it. Still enjoying playing Dune Imperium. I believe Lost Ruins of Arnak on that original list was maybe number 4 on my list. And I did actually get to play that again the other day. Megan and I have found that it plays great at 2 players. So we've had some wonderful games at 2 player, even though she has trounced me every time. I am not very good at Lost Ruins of Arnak, and she was very good at Lost Ruins of Arnak. Other games that I played recently, just to throw these out there, I have some of these are new to me games. I have videos about them coming out soon. I played Small Islands on Board Game Arena. I played Empyrean Hero, a Kickstarter game that I got. I played that last week. I have videos about that, a Small Islands, about Overboss, that was new to me, and Red Cathedral coming out probably in a few weeks. I'm way ahead on game design videos right now, so even though I'm mentioning these now, you may not see videos of them for a little while. And we're also playing through the Hero Realms cooperative campaign, which I'm having a lot of fun with so far. And the last game I think that I played in the last week since the previous video was Tapestry. Got Tapestry to the table the other day, 2-player, and had a wonderful time playing that. We kind of had a heavy game Saturday. Megan and I played Lost Ruins of Arnak and Tapestry back to back. Let's see. Tim says Peterson Games has 4 new games at GameFound currently in a bundle. Certainly an interesting marketing strategy. All monster games. Tim, tell me a little bit more about that because I am aware that Robinson Crusoe just launched on GameFound, but I didn't know that there was another GameFound campaign. So are you referring to a GameFound campaign or are you referring to a pledge manager? Because a lot of campaigns or a lot of companies offer additional games on their pledge manager, but I'm talking about Kickstarter or crowdfunding campaigns where the games are multiple games are in that campaign itself, not just the pledge manager. But thank you for letting me know about that. Let me know, give me some clarity there to see if that would fall into this category of crowdfunding campaigns with multiple games in the crowdfunding campaign itself, multiple new games in particular. Martina is joining us from the Czech Republic. Thanks for dropping in today, Martina. Clive says, "Hey Jamie, do you plan any new content for Scythe?" No, no, we are finished making new content for Scythe, the tabletop game known as Scythe. We have completed the trilogy of expansions, various accessories, promos. We are done making Scythe stuff. So now you know if you buy any Scythe thing that you don't already have that you are working towards a complete collection because it truly will be complete after that if you want it to be complete. But we sell everything separately so you can pick and choose exactly what you want for your collection. Uh, Sean says, I'm sorry, this is someone's name that is spelled Sion, and this is a name that people in America like me often mispronounce as like Sion, but it is Sean. And Sean says, my family love our Red Rising Collector's Edition, and we're currently making our way through the books. That's awesome that you're doing that as a family. Thanks for introducing us to an excellent series. Thank you for trying it. I am elated to hear whenever someone, a fellow gamer, gets the Red Rising game and then wants to learn more about that world and reads the books. That makes my day whenever I hear that because that was and is a huge motivation for me in co-designing and making the Red Rising game. Scott's treat of the day is a lemon Kit Kat. It's an interesting Kit Kat flavor, Scott. Carlos says, I guess one of the most demanding tasks of card games is balancing the point values on each card. I remember hearing that Elizabeth Hargrave had a formula and a massive spreadsheet. Yeah, she had a huge spreadsheet to calculate the point value of each card, but I was wondering what that process looked like for Red Rising. For Red Rising, we didn't have a spreadsheet, but we did have a giant InDesign document, basically, converted to PDF when Alex and I would exchange it, that had all cards on it. So we were constantly looking back and forth and comparing the card values. And each card, each set of cards was grouped by color. So each page was 7 cards with a color on that page. So we didn't have, there wasn't a spreadsheet style formula to it, but there was maybe a softer formula as we looked at the different card values. And we wanted each card to not be equal in value to each other card, but to have the potential to be strong, to be very strong. So we didn't want there to be like just an inherently weaker card in the set or an inherently stronger card. We tried to balance them as closely as possible. And the theme played into that a lot too. Every card was based on the theme for that specific character. Steiner says, have I decided what color the big box for Wingspan will have? We have some backgrounds illustrated by Natalia and Anna, and we're going to choose from one of those backgrounds. We haven't picked one yet, but we have a couple different options to choose from. They're kind of that watercolor style background that you can see on the other Wingspan boxes. Let's see. I'll jump over to my topics real quick and then jump back to Beth's comment over here. Some videos and blog posts that I did recently, in case you want to check them out. My video this past weekend was about my top 10 favorite campaign games. I did a video previously about my top, I think, like 7 favorite legacy games, because I only played 7 legacy games at that point. But not all campaign games are legacy games. And so I did a video about my top 10 favorite campaign games this past weekend. I also did blog post yesterday, or Monday. Monday was about YouTube memberships, specifically in reference to the Thinker Themer channel. They recently activated YouTube channel memberships on their channel, and I wanted to talk about that. And I also talked about on Thursday how I say yes to every interview. So if any media creator, any content creator ever wants to chat with me for a public interview, I say yes to it. There were a few stipulations on that blog post about, namely about that it's public content that anyone can share and experience and consume, and that it is not their first post. Because I have found if it is someone who wants to be a media creator, oftentimes they spend a lot of time thinking about what it would be like to be a media creator instead of just starting out and making something. And I found in the past, if I do an interview with someone who wants to launch a channel, that they rarely actually launch that channel. So those are my two stipulations. But otherwise, I say yes to anyone who wants an interview, big or small. I don't care how big their audience is. I just like talking to people about games. And so I have a blog post about that last Thursday if you want to check that out. Beth says that she is excited to be able to get robin eggs this time of year, which I'm totally addicted to and wish they were sold all year round. She says, I also very much crave Russell Stover's dark chocolate raspberry eggs. Some nice chocolate treats there in this Easter season, Beth. Morgan says, speaking of shipping, did you happen to see that the Suez Canal is blocked by a huge cargo ship? I did see a post about that. I don't know how true it actually is, but I did see a photo of it on Facebook today. And although, Morgan, I'll trust your judgment because you said your wife is in logistics and informed you about this. So I will trust your perspective on that and your wife's perspective. And yeah, that's crazy. I don't think we have any shipments that go through the Suez Canal. All of ours are West Coast shipments for Canada and the U.S. at least. Yeah, I don't think we have any that go through. It is possible our shipments to the U.K. go through there, but hopefully not. Hopefully they figure that out because that is a major problem for the Suez Canal to be blocked. Kyle also says he's reading Golden Sun, one of the Red Rising books. Alex says, great comments regarding your availability for interviews calls. Yeah, I was just talking about. Alex is ahead of time here because I'm 9 minutes behind on comments. He says, my question is, do you foresee any solution for those countries like Mexico where backing Kickstarter projects cost 50% or more of the price of the product? Most of the time are not part of the list of countries where the publisher can ship. Yeah. Do I foresee a solution for that? So there are a couple issues in play here. One is success rate of shipping. So we have found there are certain countries where we have shipped to them time and time again, and it is exceedingly rare that the shipments actually arrive at the destination, which means that we have spent money on shipping and we end up having to refund the backer, the customer, because they didn't get the product either. It's not their fault, they didn't get it. And so we lose quite a bit of money on those. And so that's why at a certain point we decide, okay, we just can't continue to ship to these countries until there's a solution. It's a very small subset of countries, but we've used experience to find that it just doesn't work. I don't have a solution for that. I don't know. I would love for that to be fixed. As for the cost, I also don't have a solution for this, but I'll mention what the problem is. A lot of countries have very high import taxes. Brazil is one of them. Brazil, I believe, has a 90% import tax. The idea behind that is that Brazil wants products to be made in Brazil and not elsewhere. And so they put this huge import tax, which makes things from out of the country very, very expensive for people in Brazil. And I don't have a solution for that too. That is a government issue that I don't. I understand that they're trying to look after industry in that country, but I don't think that necessarily looks after consumers in that country because they're spending so much more on things that come from outside the country. I don't know what the import tax is from Mexico. I do know that shipping costs even from the U.S. to Mexico is very expensive and doesn't always have the highest success rate, but it is getting better. Fortunately, the U.S. and Mexico are so close in proximity that I think there are some good solutions there. One solution I will mention though is if you have a solution for yourself, I would recommend just finding a good freight forwarder, basically, or not freight forwarder, but forwarding service with an address in the U.S. So if you find a good solution, a good courier that works for you to get a game from the U.S. to wherever you are, like Mexico, if that's where you are, Alex, find a freight. I keep saying freight forwarding, a forwarding service in the U.S., an address in the U.S. that you can have the company mail the game to, and then you can take care of mailing the game from that address to your destination. There are lots of companies that you can search for on Google that offer this service. And if you find one that works for you, I think you can definitely do that. And you can even collect multiple games in like essentially a mailbox in the US and then have them shipped to your final destination. So I think that is a possible solution for you to use. And if you ever have any good recommendations for those, please let me know so I can share them. Jake is just dropping in to say that he hopes that I have a great day, and thank you, Jake, for saying that. Let's see. Tammy says I was part of a great Twitch stream where we discussed all the awesome reasons we love Stonemaier games. Thank you for all you do. Well, that's wonderful, Tammy. Thank you for doing that. Do you have a link to that? I don't know. Not that I want to listen to people to say nice things about me, but I would love to connect with the people that were part of that conversation because that is wonderful to know that people were saying those things. So yeah, if you have a link to that Twitch video, feel free to share it in the comments below. Daniel says, how far do you like to internally plan games in advance? And has there been a product that you've been so excited about that you quickly pushed up the initial release date? Um, that's a good, interesting question, Daniel. So we typically plan, or I try to plan, around 3 years in advance. But that is, I basically know what the next 3 years will look like roughly in terms of new games, expansions, accessories. There's plenty of room for surprises in there, of course. Um, and I also don't know like exact dates for anything in there. I know there's a game that I'm working on that I think will come out in 2023, but it could be ready early. It could be ready later. So it's very rough at this point, very rough idea. Um, to answer your other question here, uh, has there been a product product that I've been so excited about that I quickly pushed up the initial release date? I'm excited about everything that we release, but it is never a question of. Uh, I've never been in the situation where I've had a product be ready so early in the plan that I've been able to release it early, because we're always like kind of one step behind, even when we feel like we're ahead. Uh, there's always some unforeseen slowdown. Like right now, freight shipping is the slowdown. So even when we feel like we're a little bit ahead, we always end up a little bit behind. And so I'm finally close to the possibility in the coming months where a few of the products that we will wrap up and send to production in the next couple of months, we will actually get to fulfillment centers maybe even a few months in advance of when I plan on announcing them and doing the pre-order. I would love to do that. I would love to have those games in stock so when we do the pre-order, we can start to ship right away and to kind of get ahead of our schedule a little bit. But there are always so many constraints. There are always so many unforeseen things that can come up. With one of the big bottlenecks, it's a good bottleneck, but it's a bottleneck we work with one graphic designer. She's one person, Christine Santana. She's wonderful. And I trust her and I want her to work on all of our games, all of our products. But she's just one person. And so uh, as soon as we finish a game, I send the files to her, but she has to get through them. We only have one person to work with. We could add more graphic designers to speed things up, but I don't. It's kind of it's a nice stopgap along the way because I don't want to have 20 products be ready all at once. I'm okay. I want to have products staggered, and having Christine as a little bit of a bottleneck, not in a bad way, but as a bottleneck, make sure that our products are staggered naturally in the way that they are released. That goes, I think, a little bit above what you're asking for there, but just a few thoughts of how our production line of games ends up working, our operations, our logistics. Jeremy says, being a game developer, does seeing the mechanisms of a game take some of the magic away, or does it increase your appreciation for it? Yeah, I'm both a game designer and a developer and a publisher, so I wear multiple hats here. Game designer is someone who creates a game from scratch. A game developer is someone who takes a game design that's already been created and takes it from being 90% ready to 100% ready. Just to differentiate between those two terms there. And no, I'm able to still play games for fun. I play games for fun all the time, and games give me ideas all the time, but I'm able to just fully immerse myself in a game and enjoy it, especially upon multiple plays. For the first play, I do often have my game design hat on. Connor says he agrees about Rodney's video. He says, I think the best comment for those negative posters is to write, I hope you enjoy it. Totally agree. This allows them to think in a negative tone because they didn't enjoy it, but any other reader would hopefully see it as a positive comment. I love that, Connor. Yeah, that's a great way to see it. That it's okay to have negative thoughts. It's okay to have sad and angry feelings. It's okay for us to feel those things, but it's not okay to bring down someone else because of your negative feelings. I think it's very rare that that's okay. I'm sure someone can think of a time where that is okay, but I think it's very rare. So I love your suggestion here that if someone posts a game that they're super excited about, instead of saying, I think that game sucks, Or even worse, to say that game is bad, because then you haven't even added your own opinion to that phrase. You were just saying objectively that game is bad, which is not true about anything. Nothing is objectively bad, at least in terms of products. I like your solution of saying, I hope you enjoy it. I think that is a judicious way of saying that and allowing you to still have those negative thoughts about it if that's what you want to think about. Rob says, I've never played Scythe, but he has held back as a result of only being able to play it as a two-player game. In light of this, would you recommend it for two players, or would you say that it's better as a two-player plus Automa? I would absolutely recommend Scythe as a two-player game. Absolutely. I mean, I put those player counts on games for a reason. It's because I believe in those player counts. And we play tested Scythe a ton at two players. Yeah, I think Scythe works really well at two players. In fact, I think you actually have a little bit of extra decision space inside the two players, because you fully have the decision of, am I just going to stick to my own engine over here in my part of the world and do my own thing, or am I going to reach out and poke at my opponent a little bit? So yeah, Rob, I would. I mean, you're asking the most biased person in the world, but I can tell you for sure that we play tested Scythe heavily at two players, and I absolutely believe in it as a two-player game. Without Automa. I designed it fully for two players without Automa. Automa came after that, designed specifically for solo play, not to be added to a two-player experience. My friend Miles is here. He says his house is being packed and headed to St. Louis today. That's awesome. I'm so excited. Whenever anyone moves to St. Louis, especially a friend like Miles, I'm super excited. And Miles, I hope the trip goes well. Marcel says, still great that you do this every week. I think I'm on my third year doing these Facebook Live posts every Wednesday. Thank you for joining me for these. He says, which themes would you like to see a game that doesn't have one, as far as you know, and are you hoping for a specific theme because it's trending? No, I would say if I ever see a theme that's trending, that makes me pull away from it, because I don't know, that means that there are already some cool games out there with that theme. I wouldn't say there's a specific theme that I'm looking for that I'm excited about. The thing that I think excites me the most about games is when I get to explore a new world. So any new world that's built from the ground up, especially in collaboration with the artist or by the artist. I love artists that are also world builders and vice versa. That excites me as a gamer. That excites me as a publisher. Tim says, if I played Village from Stronghold Games, I'm excited I finally tracked it down. Not sure why it's out of print. I have played Village, but I think I played it from Tasty Minstrel Games. So maybe Stronghold took over the rights to it at some point. I played it once. Yeah, I did play it a while ago. Oh, one fun thing that happened to me, not speaking of Village, but just a fun thing that happened is I get to have a Zoom call with the famous game designer, prolific game designer, Reiner Knizia the other day, and his coworker, Britta. We had a wonderful chat over Zoom, just kind of connecting and saying hi. I've never met him before, but it was really, really cool. I mean, yeah, it was a very cool moment to talk with a designer that I admire so much, and who has one of my favorite games. One of my favorite games is Ra, and that's one of Reiner Knizia's games. I think he does auction games really, really well, and I love Ra. So it was fun to just be able to geek out for a few minutes and tell him how much face to face I love Ra. That was a really, really cool call. Lucas says he has a question regarding the next Wingspan expansion. Hasn't been asked. People have certainly asked about the next Wingspan expansion, yes. But really the Wingspan product that we're openly talking about right now is the Wingspan Big Box, which is not a game, doesn't have any gameplay components. It's just a big box organizer solution for all Wingspan stuff, past, present, and future. We're working on that now. Pedro says, any thoughts on the Fjords reprint? I did see it go live on Kickstarter. I haven't really looked into it. I don't know much about that game. Do you know much about it? Is it worth me exploring or looking deeper into? Lucas also followed up his question about the Wingspan expansion, asking when I will talk about it. And I don't know, actually. I'm kind of giving Elizabeth the time and space that she needs to work on the next expansion. I don't want to ever rush Elizabeth to work on the next expansion. So I don't know. And when I do know, I'll let you know. But right now, I don't know. Wayne says that his treat for the day is a strawberry margarita. That sounds fun on a nice spring day here. Alexandra says, just wanted to thank you and Stonemaier Games for supporting us smaller creators. Thank you, Alexandros. That's wonderful. I'm not sure if you're a content creator or a smaller publisher. Either way, I hope you feel supported by the content that I create on the Stonemaier Games blog and my YouTube channel. So, yeah, thanks for your comment. Justin says, I came in late on the question about campaigns with multiple games. Okay, crowdfunding campaigns that feature multiple games. That was the thing that I opened today's chat with. He says, one campaign I saw had two games in the same campaign is on Kickstarter from Final Frontier Games. Yeah, that was the one that inspired this question. Yes, yeah. I'm aware that I'm kind of asking, what do you think about that? Do you think does that make you more excited about a campaign, or does dividing your attention between two products make you less excited? Sean says, can I please clarify how some people have received Red Rising, but the email from Stonemaier Games says that it hasn't arrived in the US yet? Yes, Sean. Yeah, our fulfillment system uses 4 different fulfillment centers around the world. We have one in Canada, one in Australia and New Zealand, one in the UK, and one in the US that ships to people in the US and around the world. We have different freight shipments that go to each of those places, each of those fulfillment centers. And when those ships arrive at the fulfillment centers, those fulfillment centers start shipping. So obviously, not every ship. Those are places that are geographically distant from one another. Those ships are going to arrive at different times. They have different port systems that have different delays, or might be faster than others. And with any fulfillment process, where we're fulfilling thousands of games, these are humans putting games in boxes and sending them out. And so that can't happen simultaneously. So your neighbor might get a shipping notification a week before you do because of how different people are packing the games literally and getting them out the door on a day-to-day basis. But most importantly, if you are in the US and you're wondering why you haven't gotten your shipping notifications, because the freight shipment to the US is taking longer than the other shipments to other places. Sean, this is detailed in great detail on my Kickstarter blog on Stonemaier Games if you want to check out how worldwide fulfillment works. It does not go from a central place. It goes from different fulfillment centers around the world. Let's see. Okay, so Tim, there is a second campaign on GameFound right now. Thank you for letting me know about that. I think this is the first time GameFound has had simultaneous campaigns going. That's exciting. Looks like the campaign isn't doing great though, so I wonder if that is. Yeah, thanks for letting me know about that, Tim. I really appreciate that. Nathan says, "What's my process for picking new games to publish?" Part of it is, I design some of the games that we publish, so part of it is which games. That's a whole process in itself. I have a lot of ideas. I prototype some of those ideas, and out of like every 100 idea that I think of, one of those games, maybe one or two of those games, actually gets through to the publishing process. So that's part of it. The other part is we have games that are submitted to us through a submission form, and my co-founder Alan reviews those submissions to see if they are a good fit for us. And a few of those, maybe 1 in 100, gets through to the prototype stage where we actually request the prototype. Every now and then I find a game at Stonemaier Games Design Day that really excites me. And what are a few other ways? Sometimes it's, there are other weird ways. Sometimes it's a world building thing where an artist starts to build a world and we have a designer that we want to pair with it. And that's something that we might be working on. There's lots of different ways that we can pick games. But I would say the most formal way is through the submission form on our website. Kim says, any game releases that I'm looking forward to in 2021? I don't usually do like anticipated games lists. I don't know why. It just doesn't occur to me to do anticipated games, but I did have a list here. Oh, it's on my website. Okay, I'll pull it up real quick and share some of the games that I am anticipating that haven't come out yet in 2021. So this is in my favorites post from a few months ago. Favorite games of 2020. Okay. So whenever I post a list of my favorite games of the last year, I post games that I'm looking forward to for the following year. Namiji, Time of Legends Destinies, Burger Brothers 2, Sleeping Gods, which I already got and played, really enjoyed, Role Player Adventures, really looking forward to that, Whatnot Cabinet, which I have now already gotten and played and really enjoyed that, Royal Visit, which I have gotten and played, really enjoyed that, Momiji, Blabble, really curious about Blabble. It's a really, really innovative cooperative game that was on Kickstarter. The Seventh Citadel, Dice Miner, The Age of Atlantis, Overboss. I already have that one. Um, Empyrean Hero, which I recently played. Merchants of the Dark Road, The Emerald Flame, The New Kemet, and Canvas, which I already have as well. So actually, it looks like a good third of that list I have already played and received, which makes sense. We're not quite a third of the way through the year, but we're getting there. Yeah. Let's see. I'll jump over to my. Well, no, I'll stick with questions real quick. I'll jump back to my stuff in a minute. I don't have anything huge to discuss on my list. Raphael says, "Are you or Sumar Games going to Gen Con this year?" I am not, but it is possible that Alex, our director of sales, might have some connection to going to it. I don't know if that means that he'll physically go there, but he might go there virtually. But no, we still conventions aren't a big part of our marketing process at all. They're a very small, if not non-existent part of our marketing process. But we do have traditionally worked with MeepleSource at Gen Con. So if MeepleSource wants to do something at Gen Con, we will absolutely support that. Eric says, "Do you know what company will translate Red Rising in French?" Madigo is the company in France that we work with. Yeah. Aaron says, "Can I share when we can expect to see the digital version of Wingspan on mobile or like iOS and Android?" I wish that was information that I had access to, Aaron, but that is a question for Monster Couch, the digital developer of Wingspan. Actually, that does remind me that I have to check in with the developer who's working on the scoring app for Red Rising, Tim. I need to check in with him to see how that's going. Tim, if you're watching this, let me know. Dylan says, also has a digital question, any update on Tapestry and or any other Stonemaier games coming to Board Game Arena? I did get in touch with Board Game Arena about Tapestry. They've been working on Tapestry for a long time. And I believe the developer, Adam, is making decent progress, but slower than I hoped or expected. Digital stuff always takes longer than you hope or expect. So his response was that he's working on it, but doesn't have a date for me yet. Adrian says that his group played Tapestry 3 weekends in a row. 3 weekends in a row. That's awesome. I'm so glad that you are having fun with Tapestry, Adrian. I had a blast playing it this last weekend too. Played as the Islanders, one of the new civs in the expansion, in the first expansion. Giancarlo says, what do I think is a game mechanism that isn't played very often, but if well implemented in a good themed game, could be a hit? Uh, well, what is one? I cut you choose is one. I price you choose. I cut you choose is one that is in a fair number of games, but I love it so much. I want to see it in more games. I love I price you choose or I cut you choose. It is a great mechanism, and I would love to see that in more games. Jeff says you previously mentioned that you were creating pendulum overlays. Do you have an estimate as to when those might be available to purchase? Good question, Jeff. I actually heard from Panda about them last week because they were taking much longer than I would normally think to get samples of. I think the Chinese New Year threw them off a little bit. Maybe they forgot about it for a little bit. But Panda is working on samples to get to me for these acrylic overlays for the pendulum player mats. We're going to make a small batch of them to see how they do. And so I don't have an estimate yet, but I'd definitely say sometime in 2021. Uh, just scroll. Yeah, so before I get to other questions here, oh, I have some more questions. Gerald says, have I ever looked into manufacturing thousands of expected EU copies in the EU as you can get back VAT as you pay the manufacturing from the sales VAT? Also, no freight shipping cost. I once did try to work with a manufacturer. So I don't want to say who it was or really what game it was, but there was one game that we printed in Europe, and I did not have a good experience with it. The customer service, and really this is not fair of me to think about all European manufacturers in this way, but it was a major game manufacturer in Europe, and the communication and customer service was so bad that compared to how good it is with Panda, that that no, I mean it was night and day, and it made me grateful for Panda and grateful for Panda as a partner, despite the shipping costs from China, despite the VAT. It's worth it for me to have a company that actually responds to my emails and does what they say they'll do is worth it, worth every penny to me. So no, that isn't something that I've considered since that experience. A few people are commenting here that say that here's Chance saying that he enjoys Scythe at 2 players. Chance is a friend, but I know Chance also loved Scythe before we were friends, so I can share that. Suzanne says that she also enjoys Scythe at 2 players. Um, Paul is saying, oh, my disc golf buddy and game designer Paul Solomon of Honeybuzz. He says he can't wait to throw some discs with Miles in St. Louis, because Miles is going to join our little disc golfing crew. At least give it a try and see if he likes it. Glenn says, if you re-released older games, would you start including a tutorial, like a Swift Start guide that we have in Wingspan, to add on to aid new players to get a grip with the mechanisms? It depends on the game. It depends on how heavy the game is or what the target audience is. Wingspan is not a particularly heavy game, but for someone who has not played modern games, it seems like a lot. Um, uh, there's something I want to spoil, but I'm not going to. It's a little too early to spoil it. But I will say, in general, like, I always keep in mind accessibility for players. I want to give players, I want to make it very easy for players to get into their first game. And sometimes that might mean a Swift Start guide. Sometimes that means other things. Like in Red Rising, I don't think a Swift Start guide is needed. We do have a little player aid that we give to players. In Scythe, I have little cards that players can use for their first game to kind of guide them through their first game. Not quite at the level of detail as the Swift Start guide and Wingspan, but it does give you some things to think about. So it is something that I am always thinking of in every game, not just reprints or old games, for every game that we make. Yeah. My friend Jeff also says that he likes Scythe at 2 players. But he says, that being said, would you ever consider making a strictly 2 player version of one of our games? Like Agricola versus Agricola, all creatures, great, big and small. Um, I'm trying to remember the poll results about this, Jeff, because I did poll people in Scythe a while ago about which, if I made a new version of Scythe, what they would do, or another game in the Scythe world. And as I recall, deck building came up on top. People wanted a Scythe deck builder. And below that was a Scythe 2 player game. Um, and I've even had a designer I really trust come to me and say that they had an idea for a Scythe 2 player game. But it, I'm hesitating here because it just goes outside of our design philosophy. I want games, our intent is to publish games that scale from 1 to 2 players up to 5 or 6 players and really play well at 2 players. Um, and so a 2 player only game is something that just doesn't fit into that philosophy yet. Maybe that will change someday, but currently that is not something that fits in those types of games that we make. Yeah. Patrick says, what new release are you playing next or this weekend? What am I playing this weekend in terms of new to me games? There is a game, I mean, we'll probably continue to play through the Hero Realms cooperative campaign. We're working on that right now. And if we finish that, there's a game called Arch Ravels that I want to try. It's a fairly new game, I believe from another St. Louis designer that I want to try. Yeah. Jeff. Thanks for jumping in, Jeff. Casey points out for 2 player Scythe, if you want a tighter board, you can use the modular board for that purpose because the modular board allows you to design basically how big you want the board to be. And so, Casey, yeah, that's a great point that you can adjust the size of the board using the modular board. Mike says, I recently played Lost Ruins of Arnak. Have you played this? Yeah, I mentioned earlier actually that I played it for, I think, the 3rd or 4th time this past weekend. It was my, I think, number 4 new to me game in 2020. And yeah, it's a great game. It's one of those games where you're trying to eke out just one more turn, one more action, one more benefit, kind of like in Tapestry. In fact, I just actually filmed a video about games. If you love Tapestry, games that you'll also enjoy, and Lost Ruins of Arnak definitely made it onto that list. That video won't be ready for release for a few weeks. So I'm ahead on those videos too, but that was fun to film yesterday. Mira says that it looks like Jeff and Mira are joining me today. What a treat. Some friends that used to live in St. Louis but moved away. Mira says her favorite game of all time is still Viticulture. And Mira, I have a special surprise for you later this year when we have the Viticulture expansion, or whenever that's ready. Maybe not this year, but probably early next year. And I look forward to sharing that with you. Greg says, not board game related, but I noticed that you climb. Are you more into recreational climbing? Yeah, I'm into like indoor rock climbing. Do you climb regularly? What is your style? Bouldering, lead, top rope? Any interest in ice climbing? I like lead climbing. That's my preference. I do I went, so I took a break from it at the beginning of the pandemic because it just didn't seem safe to go to an enclosed space. And then I decided to give it a try at weird times of the day when no one else was at the climbing gym. Lead climbing, no, it's top rope. We do top rope. We do top rope, not lead climbing. Okay, a clarification. Megan is the one that got me into climbing. I always mix up those two terms, lead and top rope. I like top roping. Um, and so for a while, I took a break. Then I came back to it at weird times of the day where it was pretty much just me at the gym wearing a mask, being safe, and I was using the auto belays for that, which are fine. I mean, it's fun to jump down from an auto belay, but it's a little harder, I think, than top roping because you don't have someone putting tension on the rope at any given time. So yeah, it has been a few months since I've been though. Ever since the virus variants started coming out, I got a little extra scared to go to a gym during the day, and I've gotten more into disc golf as the weather has been nicer. So um, I would say my main athletic or exercise outlet right now is disc golf, but I will definitely get back into indoor rock climbing when I'm able to. Adrian says, "Is there a mentorship program from Stonemaier Games?" Um, kind of, in that the content that I produce is for public consumption, and I read every comment. I reply to questions, whether it's about crowdfunding and entrepreneurship on the Stonemaier Games blog or about game design on the Stonemaier Games YouTube channel. I do public mentorship, and I like having public conversations. I'm learning from you. You're learning from me, hopefully. But private mentorship, I do not do. I actually have a blog post about this because it's only benefiting two people at most, mostly one person. And I'd rather create content and have relationships that benefit a lot of people all at once. I think that's a much more efficient and effective use of time. Yeah. Tammy says, you asked me for the Twitch link. Here we go. So Tammy linked to the Twitch conversation about Stonemaier Games. Thank you, Tammy. I will check that out. I will be. I don't want my ears to glow, so I won't be watching the video, but I'm going to check it out and maybe subscribe to this channel here if this is a channel about that loves board games on Twitch. Yeah, thank you so much for linking to that. Edwin says that his first grandson is going to be born today. Congratulations, Edwin, on being a grandfather. He says his first game will be My Little Scythe. That's adorable. Yeah, I look forward to hearing about his first game in a few years. Okay, here's Justin Theron showing his thoughts on multiple games on Kickstarter. He says the ones for Final Frontier games go hand in hand together with the same series, so he's okay with that. He says if the games are separate and not related, it would cause some concerns, but willing to support if you can justify it. I can see that. Yeah. Charles says that he's looking forward to seeing my open world game. Yeah, that's one of the big ones that I've been working on. Working on it today, actually. Yeah. Steven says, what is the amount of percentage of board games sold via Kickstarter versus retail for the rest of the year? It really depends on the game. I haven't used Kickstarter as a creator since 2015, so it's been a long time for us. But I mean, the number of games, like, just to throw out an example here, Scythe. We had Scythe on Kickstarter. I think Kickstarter backers backed around 22,000 copies of Scythe on Kickstarter, which is a lot of games. That was awesome. But lifetime sales of Scythe have been, I think they're close to 400,000 at this point. And even in the first year of Scythe, we were printing it as fast as possible. Probably sold a good 60, 70,000 copies of Scythe in that first year beyond just the Kickstarter copies. So if you have a hit game, you're going to sell a lot more after the Kickstarter campaign. A lot of games only have the Kickstarter campaign, though. That's their only one and only print run. So it really depends on the game. Derek says, have I read or heard of The Memory of Empire by Arkady Martine? He highly recommends it. I have not heard of that, but I'm going to make a note about that. The Memory, interesting title, The Memory of Empire. Right now I am reading a book called Machine Man, which is kind of a fun light novel about someone who loses a leg and replaces it with a better machine version of a leg. And I won't spoil what happens next, but it's very interesting. It's a fun light read, but I'm having a lot of fun with that right now. That's called Machine Man, and it is, I believe, a standalone book. Luke says, I'm an assessment data analysis for a school system. I think you've mentioned you have someone analyze your playtesting data. We do, yeah. Jeremy does that. Do other companies use analysts too? How might I get involved in playtest data analysis? That's a great question, Luke. I would highly doubt that most companies do that. I would say that most of them do what I used to do, which I thought was enough, which is that I would get a bunch of playtesting data and I would analyze it as a game designer. But I really, really think I just the Jeremy has been such an amazing asset because he does this professionally. He knows how to organize data and analyze it in ways that are far beyond what I'm able to do, and that has really helped us with balancing different things, especially with Tapestry, with the amount of asymmetry in Tapestry. And Jeremy, well, actually, he started by doing this, Luke, and this is one way that you could start. Jeremy gathered some data about Tapestry based on reports of people playing the published version of the game, and he published his thoughts and his analysis on Board Game Geek. And I saw that post, and I reached out to Jeremy, and I said, Jeremy, this is awesome. We need this. I would love to work with you in the future on future playtesting. So he posted there and I saw him. I don't know if other publishers are quite that proactive. Some of them are, not all of them are though. But if you have a few publishers that you really love, you could reach out to them and say, I would love to analyze your data so that you can have more balanced games. Say that in a nicer way than I just said it, but get that gist. Offer yourself to them. And uh, I don't know if it's new to a publisher, a way that you could approach it is to offer it for free at first. Just say, hey, I want to try this. This is something I want to offer you for no cost for the first time. Just let them know that there might be a cost in the future, but this time there's no cost to it. So they give it a try because I think a lot of publishers, if they're introduced with something new out of the gate and there's a cost associated with it, they might say, no, we don't really need that. We'll do that internally. But yeah, that's my suggestion. Reach out to a few publishers and say that you really believe in their games, you love their games, and you want to help with data analysis and see how they respond. Yeah. Let me know how it works out too. Jim says he's releasing the review for Red Rising later this week. He says he loved getting under the skin of this game. He says, I'm interested though. I've discussed at length this point for the review with others. Would you classify this as a filler due to the length and complexity? I definitely wouldn't. For me, a filler is a game that can be taught and played in 15 to 20 minutes at most. So like Fantasy Realms is a filler. Red Rising is a game, I mean, you can probably burn through a game of Red Rising in 30 minutes. It's typically going to be more like 45 minutes or 60 minutes with a larger group. But I would definitely not, under my classification of a filler, I would definitely not call it a filler because I don't think it can be taught and played, set up, and cleaned up in 15 to 20 minutes. If you're doing that, I'm very impressed, but I don't think that's possible with Red Rising. Stefan says, I'd love to be able to purchase a golf disc with the Stonemaier Games logo. That would be cool. I mean, disc golf is a personal hobby of mine. It has no real connection to Stonemaier Games at all, even though I did do a video about it. But I appreciate your interest in that, Stefan. What is your favorite disc? Do you have a favorite disc that you throw? I love the Innova Cheetah. Really, really love my Innova Cheetah. It's getting so beat up that I might actually need to replace it pretty soon. John Williams says, as Stonemaier Games continues to grow and also the demands on you as a person, how do you continue to get enough time to develop, to design, I'll insert design in here, to design and develop new games? Having Alex and Joe come on full time has really, really helped with that. I still, like, at best, I probably get a few hours every day to work on game design, and that's at best. So, I don't know. I think that's just the way it is. That's the way it's always been at Stonemaier Games. That most of my time is spent on operations and communication and marketing, customer service, logistics, all that other stuff, and I then can carve out a few hours for game design and hopefully make good progress with that time. So, yeah, I don't know. I just do my best to be efficient and to carve out that time because I do really enjoy that creative time, and I like the balance anyway. I like having a variety of things to do every day. I wouldn't want to only just spend 10 hours every day on game design. I like doing the other stuff too. So, Marcel says, I really like your Kickstarter video for Viticulture. Yeah, the old video for Kickstarter back in 2012 for Viticulture. He says, but this video style is not very common anymore, I think, and probably for good reason. It was basically a parody of the Sideways movie trailer. He says, I will have a Kickstarter later this year for a board game about the Dutch Renaissance. Dutch resistance during the Second World War. I'm thinking about the video for it, and I'm wondering what you think will be best for it nowadays. I have an option to hire professionals for a graphic video, but the game has a personal backstory. So I'm thinking about just filming myself talking about the game, perhaps with some reenactors, maybe a mix. My suggestion would be to have a mix. My suggestion would be to have you well, actually, I don't exactly know the order here. You go either way with the order, but I would say for the first or the last third of the video could be you introducing the game and saying what it means to you. And then the rest of the video is more theatrical, more graphical, showing like what the game is, a little bit about the world, or the story, visually about the game, and showing the game in motion. So I'm showing a few of the highlights of the game. And keep the whole video within about a minute or 90 seconds, which I know is tough, but you got plenty of other room on the project page to post other videos, other content. That would be my suggestion, to have a little bit of mix between the two. And you can see that even with some of our older Kickstarter videos where we had fairly professional videos. Fairly, I mean, not the best, but this was, back in 2012, 2013. And even then we would introduce the video. We would say, hey, we're here. This is a game that we really believe in. This is our face. We're having a connection with you right now. And here's now the fancy trailer that shows off what the game is all about. I like that mix. Rachel says that Arch Ravels is from designers from Chicago, not St. Louis. So sorry about that. Thank you for clarifying that, Rachel. Carol says that she just finished Morning Star last night, and she says, I now fully understand your commentary when people ask which is my favorite book in the series. The second half of Morning Star is so hard to put down. Yeah, that's what I'm referring to in Morning Star. There's just some huge moments in Morning Star that really elevate it for me. Sasha says that he really loves viticulture. Thanks for saying that, Sasha. Jan Williams says, I had the privilege to help out as a playtester for the solo development of Red Rising. Will Red Rising be released in the Netherlands? 999 Games has been very quiet about this. I need to respect their silence about it. It's totally their decision, totally up to them to announce if and when and how and all that stuff. So that's not for me to share, but that is for them to share if and when they are ready to do so. Real quick before I forget, I did have three other quick things. One, I watched the Snyder cut of Justice League this past weekend and enjoyed it a lot more than I thought. Definitely a lot more than the theatrical version. And I also watched a movie called Moxie on Netflix, which I absolutely loved. It is an amazing movie. It's kind of a teen high school comedy, but also with some pretty strong themes about feminism and sexism and misogyny. I think it is a must-watch movie. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, highly recommend that. And also, just for fun, right now, March Madness, NCAA basketball is happening in the U.S. And I am doing something different this year. Usually I get like a little too caught up in it. I care a little bit too much about my dumb little bracket that I filled out. And this year I've been doing something differently. I filled out a bracket for the men's tournament, but I haven't really looked at the bracket. I've been looking at the games and enjoying the upsets and enjoying looking at the scores every now and then. I haven't watched any games, but I've just watched the scores pop up on ESPN. But I haven't really looked at my bracket, so I don't have that. I don't have this weird feeling of caring whether or not a certain team wins or loses due to my silly bracket, and that has been awesome for me. I love when I stumble upon a choice, something that was unhealthy that I didn't realize was unhealthy until I do the healthy version of it, and this is the healthy version of her for me. So I just wanted to share that for fun because I'm enjoying that version of following along with March Madness. Tim says, not only is the two-player versions that Uwe Rosenberg does, are they interesting and a bit more price effective for the consumer, but I find it neat that he bounces back and forth between heavy and light games. Yeah, I am amazed by that as well. And I will be doing a video about my top 10 favorite Uwe Rosenberg games pretty soon. Yeah. Zach says, having scalability for many player counts is a great philosophy, but do you think not breaking from that on certain situations could cause you to miss out on some possible great ideas? Possibly, yes. I mean, there are some two-player only games that I truly love, but other publishers can publish them, and I can still enjoy them that way. So, I don't know. Like, even if someone proposed Seven Wonders Duel to me today, if I was the first publisher that Seven Wonders Duel came to, and I loved the game, I don't know if I would publish it because I know that another publisher could do it, and I can enjoy it that way, and it just doesn't fit into our design philosophy. I think it's good to have a brand and a brand that people know when they see a Stonemaier game, they know it's going to scale from 1 to 5 players at the very least. I think that's important. I think that's important to know, to have that type of brand association. But maybe I'm clinging too tightly to that. Maybe someday that will change. And would I really want to miss out on a Seven Wonders Duel? I don't know. That game, I'm sure, was sold very well, and I love it. It's my number one game right now. So I don't know exactly, but that's what we're sticking with for now. Something for our shareholders to talk about, I think, over time. Philippe says, I've been talking about that open world game. He says, I probably missed the info, but is there a schedule when you will tell us more about it? There is not at this point. Right now, I'm just enjoying occasionally sharing my excitement for it, that I'm still working on it. This is a big open world cooperative game. Uh, so, yeah, I don't have a schedule yet for you, but I do appreciate your curiosity. Sean says, what book are you on for the Wheel of Time series? I actually finished it a couple months ago. Yeah, I wrote a blog post about book 14 a little while ago. Sasha says, can I tell us something about the viticulture expansion so far? Uh, just that we're working on it right now. I know you're eager to know more about that, and I know I've mentioned it. I don't mean to tease you about it, but it is yeah, not something that we'll be focusing on yet. The next expansion that we'll be focused on is the Between Two Castles expansion, which I will be starting to talk about in early May. Yeah. Gerald says, which imaginary Uwe Rosenberg would you buy? Viking soccer ball, dwarf rock climbing, or feudal disc golf? Probably not a dork, dwarf rock climbing, because I love dwarves in fantasy worlds, and I love rock climbing. I think that fits. I think that theme works really well. Dwarves who go rock climbing. Veli Veli says, I'm making a soccer game. Ideally, I would love actual licensed teams, but I don't think I can get that. Do you think that the licensed team would make a big impact? Um, no, I don't think they would. And I don't want to discourage you. I hope you have fun designing this game, but I genuinely don't think that sports themed games work. If you were to check out my video on YouTube about this, I have a video that I think it's called that, like why sports themed games don't work. Not that they don't work functionality, they're not fun or gameplay wise, but in terms of marketability, I don't think they work. I don't want that to deter you. I hope you have fun with the design, but I wouldn't get too caught up in the particulars there. Just have fun with the game, see where it goes, um, and perhaps you'll be pleasantly surprised. But traditionally, they have not done very well at all on the market. And Veli Veli follows that up by asking, would I want to publish a game? And no, I wouldn't. No. Bob says, earlier you mentioned that you've been doing these Facebook Live videos for 3 years. Have I looked at any data over time on those, like trends in viewership, how Q&As and comments influence your work, etc.? That's a good question, Bob. I haven't really done that, no. I don't typically go back and look at like the views, at least on Facebook. It's easier to look at the views on YouTube over time because I do post these on YouTube as well. But yeah, I haven't really looked on that all that much. I know the questions have been great over time. I love the questions that pop up in the comments. And have they influenced my work? People do bring up things all the time that make me think about whether it's about other games, about other forms of media. I've gotten some great book and movie recommendations, TV show recommendations on here. And they probably have steered me a little bit based on the types of games that I pursue and maybe a little bits about my game design as well. Yeah, hard to track that though. Kerry says, I watch every week, but I'm never live because he's in Australia and normally asleep, but he can't sleep, and he just managed to catch the end of my live cast. He says, I really enjoyed Red Rising. Did you have ideas for card interactions that came from Magic the Gathering or other games other than Fantasy Realms? Subconsciously, I'm sure yes. Magic has definitely had quite a bit of influence on me, especially in terms of the idea of card cycles, where in Magic you might have one card in each color that is very similar to each other, designed with a similar philosophy, but with a different implementation based on that color. And that has impacted a lot of my games. I have a lot of different cycles in my games, including in Red Rising. Essentially, each color is its own cycle of cards. Yeah. Let's see. I think I'm done with questions for the day. I'm a little overtime actually, so I better head off here. But thank you so much for joining for this chat. I will post this on YouTube, so if you do have any questions after this, please check out the YouTube version of the video because that's where I will definitely see comments and questions come up in the future. I hope you have a great Wednesday and a great weekend. I will see you next Wednesday. Take care. Bye.